With Paul Harris filling in for McGraw today, and of course I brought in a new batch of Knuckleheads in the news to share with you. We begin in Covington, Kentucky, where Jeff Ruby's waterfront restaurant is normally tied up along the river with a beautiful view of downtown Cincinnati on the opposite bank. Now, you know, because I said it's normally tied up, that something happened to not make it so normal anymore. Last Thursday, the cables holding that restaurant in place snapped, and it floated downstream several hundred yards. Only thing that stopped it was a bridge, which it banged into. One restaurant employee was on the ramp when it broke away from the dock but was able to get to safety. There were no customers on board at the time, but there was another employee on the boat who couldn't get off in time, had to be rescued an hour later. Now there are two tugs holding the restaurant in place so it won't hit another older bridge until two more tugs can come in and tow it back to where it belongs. By the way, it's not the first time that Jeff Ruby's waterfront restaurant has gone downriver. 3 years ago, 83 customers were on board having dinner when they went for a little cruise that they weren't supposed to. Next, we go to Cheboksary, Russia, where a bride and groom celebrated with friends after their wedding and then drove off in a rental car. Unfortunately, the 24-year-old groom had had too much to drink and crashed the car into a bus station. The couple got out and ran away, but they returned to the scene to argue with police officers who were towing the banged-up car. The groom and his 23-year-old bride attacked the three officers with punches, kicks, and headbutts before being subdued and arrested, so they spent their wedding night in jail. That was last September. Last week, they were convicted of assaulting one of those officers on duty. Each got 18 months in prison, so there's your honeymoon. And now we go to Cinderford, England, where prosecutors said Julie Evans assaulted her husband James by throwing toast at him and smearing butter on his face. Here's what happened. The argument between the couple began when Julie allegedly poured water over James as he slept on the sofa. She had supposedly asked him to help with some chores and went to bed, and when she woke up the next morning, the chores weren't done. According to the prosecutor, she started an argument, threw her toast at him. He left as he felt she was being petty, but she grabbed a handful of butter, and before he got out the door, she smeared it on his face, and then he tried to rub some of it back on her. They ended up on the floor, and when it was all over, James needed 13 stitches to repair a tear in his ear. It's always fun until somebody's ear gets torn. Ruins it for everyone. Julie denies any wrongdoing, but she's been arrested for assault. Story number 4, we go to China. China, the little town in Maine, where somebody called the state police on January 27th and reported screaming that sounded like it might be a case of domestic violence at a house on the other side of some woods. Sounded really ugly, too. So 4 troopers responded, went to the home, spoke to the homeowner, who said, "Oh, those sounds that sound inhuman? That's because they're non-human." Her male pig was screaming and squealing because he was at a pen with 5 other female pigs in heat. Just picture a guy going to the east side for the first time. Same kind of noise. Police checked out the pigs to confirm the story, and when they couldn't find any other disturbance, the case was closed. And we finished today in Denver, Colorado, where Lucinda Robinson found a kitchen window broken and several items stolen when she returned home last week. She called the cops and said, "Could you meet me at McDonald's? I really don't feel safe in my home." So she drove over to McDonald's, waited for the cops. When she pulled into the parking lot, 2 guys approached her, asked her if she wanted to buy a PS3, the video game console. Then another guy walked out of the restaurant, asked her if she wanted to buy a jacket that looked suspiciously like hers. She realized that these teenage salesmen were trying to sell her own stuff back to her. She saw the cops at a nearby gas station, told them the story. They busted all 4 of the burglars. And those are your Knuckleheads in the news for today. I'll have a new batch tomorrow here on McGraw in the Morning with Paul Harris on the Big 550 KTO.